Welcome back to the Objectively Better book, as Colin just said. We have Allison Hargreaves.
I feel like we have a new member of the podcast, Allison Hargreaves.
Don't rumor anyone, okay?
Oh.
Yeah.
You love me. Stay with Tamlin. Stay with Tamlin.
Stay with Tamlin. It's okay. Especially not the cat. Don't do that to the cat. She already doesn't know what's going on. So we're going to be talking about chapters 6 through 10 today. I feel as though many things happen in this book very fast. So there is much content to talk about as the cat runs upstairs.
There's a lot. She goes to the night court twice.
I wonder what that means.
Wow.
So Feyre is not down for a tutor. And she and the two bicker until a girl shows up. The girl's name is Mort. And she is, I was about to say Rhys's cousin. Race. And she introduces herself to Feyre and says, give a shout if you need any company. More, slay, have fun with that. Boots the house. And then Rhys starts teaching her how to read and how to shield. They're on their little journey together. The line she reads is, Feyre, you look delicious today. He calls her out for allowing the spring court to coddle her before making her practice for an hour. After that, he brings her to the map room and he tells her war is on the horizon. And he's like, you're going to be my little go-between between the spring court and the night court because Tamlin knows what the fuck is it called? Hybern knows Hybern and has connection. So like would be a good ally basically. And she's like, oh my god, my family is on the mortal side. That would be bad.
Please don't kill him.
And then he's like, also, I think you might have powers. And she's like, I don't have powers. I don't even have a title. I'm not even High Lady. And he's like, you can be whatever you want to be, Queen.
You can literally be High Lady if you want to be.
If you want to be. Like, slay.
There's no rule against High Ladies.
There's a choice. They spend all week reading and shielding. Well, and by they, I mean Feyre. Because Rhys is nowhere to be seen until the last day where Feyre walks in on Mort and Rhys having a conversation about an Azriel and a Cassian and an attack on some priestesses. They think it's this Illyrian warband. She asks what that is. He tells her like a lesser Fey race that lives in their mountains and is kind of they're a little crafty up in there. And some of them really, really liked Amarantha. They were like, bloodthirsty, let's go. And so he and his like people hunted them all down and like, they're gone.
They admired her motivation.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, maybe it's a rogue like warband. And then she asks what winnowing is, and he explains winnowing, which is just teleportation. Spot in one place, you're in the other place. Crazy.
Whoa.
And then on the last day, Rhys tells her, takes her back with the promise of like next month. She walks into Tamlin having a meeting in his study, which is very carved up. The study is not shredded. She's not chilling. And Tamlin's like, oh my god. And they have like a little moment where they're hugging and they're kissing. And she's like, let's go upstairs. And he's like, actually, Lucien, why don't you come back here?
Let's talk.
Why don't we ruin the mood? And so Lucien comes back and they have a little sit down interrogation conversation where they're like, recount everything. And so then she brings up the fact that she might have powers, Hybern, and then then Tamlin shuts down both her and Lucien because Lucien's trying to stick up for her and he's like being gaslit way where he's like, oh, like maybe we can train her in secret. And Tamlin's like, no more. Yeah. So then the tithe is a week later and a water wraith comes up and she's like, hey, we have no food. I don't have anything to give you. My people don't have anything to give you. And Tamlin's like, sucks to suck. You owe me fish.
Hey up, bitch.
I hate him so much. I actually hate him. Continue.
Fuck bitches. Get money.
So then he's like, either you bring me that fish in 3 days or your tithe doubles next year. And so the water wraith walks out all dejected. And then Feyre's like, I know what it's like to be starving. Why are you being such a bitch? And he's like, if I bend the rules for one person, I bend the rules for everyone. And she's like, fuck you. And she runs off after the water wraith and she's like, here's my jewelry. She gives her one bracelet. And then she's like, actually, take these earrings. Take this necklace. Take all of this and go buy yourself some food. Then...
Oh, and then what does the lady say to her?
Oh, she says that she'll never forget it and neither will her sisters. Feyre's having her little Maxim moment where she like solves poverty.
Yeah, Feyre.
And then at dinner they have a fight about it, and Tamlin yells at Lucien.
Poor dude's just catching strays.
Literally,
I'm so sorry.
Literally. And then Feyre gets mad at Tamlin because she has like the whole propaganda that Rhys has put into her mind, where she's like, I'm my own person. Which is not.
And Tamlin's like, no.
Yeah, you can't be your own person in the Spring Court. That's crazy. So then she's like, don't yell at him. And then she jumps into Lucien's mind and she's like, sees all this like horrible shit. And then she jumps back and she's like, oh shit. And she looks down at the table and she swears that she could see scorch marks in the shape of hands as she runs off. So then she goes back to her room and there's a scene where she's remembering what Alice told her. And Alice is like, water wraiths are known for their like insatiable appetite. Like what you gave her won't last for a week. Like that actually, it probably won't. But she's like, but they will never forget that. They will never forget that kindness. And she's like,
okay.
At least she eats for a week. Like, okay. And then
still a better ruler than her fiance.
And then that night, she can't sleep because she's like, they just had a fight, so she's like not feeling great. And so she goes downstairs, and Feyre's like, "Hey, Tamlin, what's up, Pookie?"
He's like, "Hey, girl."
And he's like in his study, and he's like, "I'm sorry," and she's like, "I'm sorry too.
Okay.
I'm sorry." And then he's like, "No, you were right. You were right. I should be nicer to people." And she's like, "So if you're gonna be nicer to people, maybe we should talk. Maybe we should have a conversation." And then she tries
right now, Kitten Whiskers.
Daddy is speaking.
Every day, I wonder if I've walked into something that I should walk back.
I never seen Shrek.
I feel like a child.
I feel like
Mama eat papa.
Mama eat papa. So then she's like, "Oh, maybe we should talk." And he's like, "No, I have a present for you." So he gives her this little box, and she's like, "Please don't be a crown. Please don't be a dress. Please don't be anything girly." And then she's like, "Oh shit, it's worse. It's paints." And he's like, "I thought you could like bring this around instead of hauling all your shit everywhere." And she's like, "So I don't want to paint. I don't want people following me around. I feel like I'm drowning, and it feels like you are holding my head underwater." And then Tamlin just freaks out. He explodes, like literally explodes. And she falls to the floor, and she's like, everything's ringing, and it's not good. And she's like, "How the fuck am I alive?" She shielded herself with her magic. And then Tamlin's like, "Oh, Pookie Bear, I'm so sorry. Let me in, Pookie. Let me in." Oh, because he can't get through her like shield, and then she does. And then he's like, "I'm so sorry. I'll never do it again. I'll work on it." And then for the next couple of weeks, he's like kind of in and out, but her guards lessen. So it's like, I guess like this horrible, dangerous situation had a good outcome. Whatever. And then the guards lessen, and then he shows back up a week later. He's like, chill. They're like fucking in the morning or something like that.
They fucking morning and night.
Fucking all the time. And then they get a little knocky knock on the door, and it's Rhys going, "Hey, Pookie, it's been a month. Let's go." Back. And that is chapters 6 through 10.
Lots and lots to unpack.
Starting in the beginning, the introduction to more
in
the introduction to Morrigan.
I forgot how like bubbly Moore is in the beginning.
I think she maintains that pretty well.
Mostly, I feel like she doesn't come in a lot.
Well, that's because she's like not in Silver Flames, and that's like the most recent thing we've read.
Fair. Yeah.
So I think she maintains that throughout. I can't really remember. What do you think of Moore?
I like her.
She slays. She boots.
She's funny. I like her.
She's cute.
She's just cute. I had no like. I think I'm too I don't think invested's the word, but like I'm so frustrated with the current 3 that I'm right now. Everyone else is just registering as like a super surface level. So I'm like, if you didn't do anything like awful to me as soon as I met you, you're fine.
We're chilling. We're shotties.
You're good. You're fine. Everyone else, I'm like analyzing every little single thing they do and say and the implications. Like those 3 specifically. And fuck them 3.
Literally.
Except Farrah. She's okay right now.
She's chilling. I mean, not really. She's kind of like...
No, she's kind of traumatized.
Yeah.
But you know what? At
down.
least she's like a lot better than she was last book.
Falling apart in every way. But yeah.
The reading and shielding practice. I forgot that like the shielding thing happens at the same time as the reading. Because I remember the reading happens with the... Rhysand is the most handsome High Lord. Rhysand is the most cunning High Lord. Not self-centered at all, King.
No, low-key, I was just mad that she did not want to teach her. I was like, bro, let him teach you. He's trying to give you agency. Please, just accept it. she accepted it real quick. But still, I was like, she was like, I don't want you to, and I was like,
it's because he makes a pretty good argument. It's I like accidentally mentioned it last podcast, but he's like, if you're going to be a high lady, you need to write menus. You need to write thank you letters for the wedding. You need to write correspondence. You need to read like menus. You need to like do all this stuff that involves reading.
It's my main gripe with Tamlin because like, okay, fine. You want to protect her, okay, but you can't marry her and expect her as the wife of the High Lord to just sit and do nothing because when she does, which we'll get to that.
And like not even letting her walk around the grounds.
But like I
can't even go for a stroll.
I'm so sorry. Even when women, and I'm gonna make this comparison, even when women had no rights whatsoever and were literally just the wife of lords or husbands or whoever it was, they were in charge of managing the household and sending people letters and books and keeping up with the balances. Maybe not like as much as the lords did. But do you think that the lords were the ones planning out breakfast, lunch, and dinner? No, it was the wives. And so I ask you, what does he plan for her to do for 24 hours a day? Fuck him and paint. Yep, that's his toy. She's literally occupied. Okay. Anyways, I'm so sorry, but whatever. Continue. Oh, also he was flirting with her, and I was like, this guy.
You like delicious today, Feyre.
Well, I could laugh. I remember that I was like, oh, but I was like, oh, okay. I literally was like fantasy student times teacher relationship. They even got the age gap down, but like literally in a funny way.
Tell me that.
I thought it too.
I even tell me student teacher. That's horrible.
It's low key what it was, but like it was really funny. Like it was.
He was only a teacher for like 15 minutes.
It's like 15 minutes teacher. So, but it was kind. I was like, oh my god, like a teacher-student relationship because he was just like outright flirting with her. But like, you know what? She kind of ate. I giggled. I laughed. Maybe I wouldn't have. If he had said that to me, if I had been forced to read that, I actually would have slapped him in the face. But it was fun to read.
So there's some one-liners in there that I'm like giggling and kicking my feet. I don't remember, what did he say? The one that we like both brought up. Like I might have been the last chapter.
Oh, it was. What are you gonna do? Okay, Feyre, paint.
She goes, fuck you. Prick or something. It was kind of really funny. I did write that. I was like, oh, her little mental magic. I was like, oh, she's
booting the house down?
I was like, oh, she has, because I had made that thing where he was like, I think you got all of her powers with they combined, combined or whatever. And I was like, oh, you know what would be really funny if she has like mental magic. And then she like learns what she said. And I was like, oh, here you go. Sorry. Continue. Oh, also, she calls him. So sorry. I'm just also reading my notes at the same time. She goes, he's like basically keeping her prisoner, and I was like, how is it any different than what your fiance is doing? You have sex with him. That's the one difference.
But I like something that you notice is how much more comfortable she feels
in the night court
because she has no sentries, no people just constantly watching her. It's literally just like Rhysand about sometimes, and Moore's maybe there. And so I think
Moore's fiddling away in the corner, like, when is she gonna call me?
Yeah, literally. And like, despite like her only being confined to the house, it's a massive house, and she's not like being forced into like which room or what she should do. Well, she sort of is,
but the thing is that like I'm all for like I understand. Oh,
anyway,
I totally. Oh, hi. She's actually coming.
Hello, Cookie Bear.
So I'm totally on board for like that comparison between like the spring court and the night court and like how she feels in both of them. I also want to talk about how immediately comfortable she feels in the night court. And I know it's obviously because like logically it's because she's already been in the Fae realm, so like she obviously already knows how that works. In the first book she didn't. But like she was trying to escape for like a good 15 chapters. My poor girl.
But she has no pressures or obligations in the night court.
Yeah.
She's just there to be there because Rhysand wants her to be there.
Just popping and locking it.
And you know
maybe he'll give her dancing lessons next.
At least he tells her shit. At least he tells her things. You know who doesn't tell her things? Her fiance! He doesn't tell her anything.
No, like when she literally found out there's about to have like a war happen,
and he's like,
had no idea.
He's like, here, like sit down, let me tell you, there's a war happening. BTW, your fiance has connections to the evil lord. And then she's like, oh!
it is really nice how he speaks to her like very much like an equal. It's kind of overwhelming at first because you're like he literally just info dumps on you, and it's not like in a bad way. He like info dumps on her as well.
Yeah.
So it's like
No, but it's done. This is the one. See, this is how you input them
Yeah.
correctly. Because to me, it just feels like he's treating her like a high lady.
it's like an equal.
This seems like a conversation that you'd have with your wife. Hey, wife. A and B is planning on invading soon. We should think about talking to C because C has connections to A and B. Yes, husband, I agree. I think we should do this.
And you're just sitting there and you're like on the same page as Feyre, and you're like,
wow, I know so much.
I'm being told things. This is
the
crazy.
first time in ever she's actually informed.
Mhm.
You know, maybe she can make an informed decision for the first time in her life.
Women can't do that.
It's also nice because you're starting to see like what I had mentioned in the first book is that she's being like you were saying she's being carried by the plot in the first book.
Finally,
And
she
now
does
in
something
this,
with
it feels like like a whole new world is open to you, where she not only has a choice, but we do as well.
Mhm.
Where we can investigate further into what's going on in this world and more about this world in the courts.
Freaking English teacher over here.
No, let it be known. I think that there's a good way to write. I think there's a good way to write a caged character without making the character feel caged. I think there's a really good way to write that. I don't think it was done well in the first book, personally.
Mhm.
Like, I think there would have been a really better way to convey to the reader, hey, Feyre is caged in the Spring Court and in the relationship.
Mhm.
And you can root for the relationship, but just wait. Because you'll see what actual freedom looks like. But, like, right, the first book just felt like she was being carried by the plot in a negative way.
Mhm.
And it kind of felt unintentional. And now I know that I'm like, okay, well, she got better. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, like, it feels intentional now. But, like, before it felt unintentional.
And I think it's interesting too that she points out, like in the map room, that because everything Reese does is very intentional.
Yeah.
Like from the map room being the night court is completely bare to like the conversation that she overhears. The place where the like massacre happens is one of the only known places in the night court. Like, and the people that he's talking about are people that everyone already knows.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everything he does is very intentional, and you can tell that. But I don't know, it's very good.
And I do think it's interesting that like when she walks into that map room and she's like, oh, the night court's bare. He doesn't trust me with that information.
Mhm.
And rightly so, because as soon as she gets back, she tells him every word of what she sees.
Don't even start with me.
Don't know. I have
Mhm.
things to say about that. I do have things to say about that. We'll get to that. We'll get there. Oh,
Oh, her powers. I mean, that was the other thing that I've written down from the map scene when she's like, he's talking about her powers. Because he's like, I think you might, have a little piece of that. And she's like, no. What?
She's casually slipping into Lucian's mind.
Yeah, no. I would never.
okay.
Also, something mentioned that she like punched Tamlin and like threw him off on his back.
And she ate.
And like they both, and she said that both Tamlin and her kind of like were like,
At least he tells her things.
And then the whole winnowing and Illyrians thing, you're on that, right? You got that? Yeah. The Illyrians, they come back in later.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
It's a little piece of information. It's a surprise tool we're gonna use later.
I put a little pin in it. I was like, okay.
Okay. And then the interrogation in the study, she shows back up and she's like, hey. And Tamlin's like,
wait, hold on.
what?
Did we skip over the subject line?
What subject line?
She kind of goes,
He says something along the lines of like, you are not anyone's subject. And that's the propaganda I was speaking of earlier.
Yeah,
that's like
individualism.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's
Who would
like,
ever want that?
you're not any, and she's like, I'm his subject. And I was like, pause.
Pause, Pookie.
Pause. You're the queen. There's a difference. But anyways, what didn't he say something? I wrote it down, but I wrote it down from like memory, so I'm not sure if it was the exact line.
Which part?
But I was Reese clocked him by like someone who sat on his ass for nearly 50 years.
Yeah.
And sat on his ass while you were trying to.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And she cuts him off because she doesn't. I think she knows exactly what he's saying. She
Oh,
knows-
100%.
She 100% recognizes
Denial is
it,
a river.
but she's not ready to like accept the fact that Tamlin isn't a good boyfriend. Or
Isn't good for her.
Yeah, isn't good for her.
Because like I know that Sarah J. Maas is trying to make us hate Tam. Like, I'm very aware of the fact that she's doing a great job at it.
doing
Like,
a
I
very
felt-
good job at
I
it.
hated him in book one, but I think that was just like poor writing in book one versus this one feels like
Because it's not just like, oh, he like murders children. It's just like
He's just a bad boyfriend.
He's a bad boyfriend, and it's kind of like the toxicity that a lot of people will fall into in relationships, and then it takes them months to realize that they're not chilling. They're not in a good relationship.
Also, Reese said that like she asked him like what side he was on or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, I'm on the side of humans because my father was on the side of humans or whatever. He's like just like my dad,
Mhm.
whatever. And then
Which is also what Tamlin said.
yeah, but like
on the other
spectrum
of that.
But I was like, but Tamlin's dad was like not on the.
He was on the opposing
I was
side.
like, so what does that say about you were human once and you can't forget where you're from? So
Them roots can
Your-
take the
your
city as a
family,
girl.
your family, although I have suspicions about Nesta, your
back
family
in
is still
Chicago.
mostly human.
Yapping about
Anyways.
Allison.
Tamlin is exactly the possessive ex that I despise and hate. And I actually hate him because why the fuck do you want to know about the Night Court?
They sit down and he's like, I need you to tell me everything. And she's like, well, I'm not his prisoner. Like, I was his guest. And she's like telling him these like personal things. And she's like, yeah, I was chilling. Like, I was his guest. Like, and he's like, no, I need you to tell me like details, like the layout. And it's like
They haven't seen each other in how
a week.
a week.
It's been a week. Haven't seen each
And
other
she said
in a
she
week.
mentioned this is the longest they've been apart since Under the Mountain.
And not only that,
And she
but
left
he
during his
is
wedding.
he keeps telling her that he's this bloodthirsty maniac. His fiance has been alone with a bloodthirsty maniac for the last week. And he doesn't want to know, how are you treated?
Mm-hmm.
Were
How
you
was
okay?
Mm.
Did he hurt you?
Mm-hmm.
Did the guards treat you nicely? Did the cooks try to poison you at some point? Were you living under psychological torture terms?
How was the bed? Was it soft?
Was it soft?
Were you sleeping on the floor?
Are you allowed to sleep? Because that's a form of psychological torture.
Were you handcuffed and locked up in his room?
Like what? Did he try to coerce you into anything? No. It's so. What was the palace layout?
What was the map? Give me the map, bitch.
What side do you think he's on?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even
He goes,
know.
I can protect you from anything. Bitch,
Girl.
the Nile is a river in Egypt. You are weak.
Yeah.
And just that entire scene with like Lucian as well, because I like think the first time I read this I did not pay attention to Lucian that well, but he's just literally he's so like caught in between the two sides because he's like, oh well, like maybe we can like train her in secret, and he's like trying to do all this stuff, and he's like trying to broach it so like casually and like so delicately, and he's like, and Tamlin's like, no.
See, I
No.
think that's like the worst part because like you're supposed to like Lucian to me was in the first book was portrayed as this like wild card or
Mhm.
whatever. Like he's always on Tamlin's side or whatever, but like he's a wild card, so you don't really like he's kind of
Mhm.
crazy, right? And so to have him in this book be like, okay, well, like I don't know, I sound crazy, but like he could like train her in secret, and then Tamlin's like, no,
No.
I don't care that we've known each other for centuries. I don't care that you're my best friend.
I
I
was
don't care that you were tortured under a mountain. And I don't care that my girlfriend nearly died for me. And
I don't need your opinion.
And I don't need your opinion because you know
That's
what?
crazy.
I'm the only one who can decide what's good for my girlfriend.
And like especially the training in secret thing, because I'm like, I understand that you want to protect her, and that's great. That's great, Tamlin. And that you think that you can do that at all times, but your only alternative is to keeping her locked up in the house. What happens if someone does
Breaks
happen to
in.
get through? Like, and what is she gonna do? Like, throw a knife at them? Like, is that her like gonna be her best level of defense?
But
Like,
also, he's not with her 24/7.
he's constantly away at like the
He's
borders,
constantly away.
And Reese can get in.
easily.
And Reese can get in as seen by the first chapter. So like
Why couldn't another bitch? And then she's just gonna sit there defenseless.
Like, whoa.
I can't read.
I really wish
I'll paint on you. Get it, bitch.
Bro does not know that she doesn't paint. Bro also does not care. Bro, I hate him.
Oh my God.
Smallest man who ever lived, written about him.
The other thing, like the last thing I want to like say about this is like every time I think it's just something that sticks with me. Every time she mentions Lucian, she says her friend.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like every single time,
Mhm.
she's like, my friend Lucian. Lucian is my friend, and I'm like, oh my God, they're best friends.
And when she was
Lucian.
begging him to fight back and stand up for himself,
Oh my god.
and he
Because
just
she
kinda, like,
cares
lowered
about him
his
so
head.
much.
Yeah.
I genuinely like them.
Mhm.
I like
So
them
good.
too more than I like everyone else.
They like I don't think he knows what it's like to have like a good friend either at this
Mhm.
point, because Tamlin's just kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
To him, like doesn't treat him as a friend. He's kind of like Regina George again. Like, I don't even know. Gretchen Wieners and Regina
It's,
George.
like, really weird. I don't know if it's because this book feels so different from the last, and I don't know if it's in a good way or in a bad way. I mean, it's better than the last. Like, objectively, it's better.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if the vibes. It just doesn't feel like I'm like. I feel like everyone made it like a switcheroo overnight, and I know that it's being explained by this traumatic event that they all experienced, but it sometimes doesn't make sense. Where I'm like, you guys have been best friends for like 600 years.
Well, it's also, remember, they're going back to normalcy after 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all wacky tobacco in this.
They're trying to find normal again.
So they're being a little weird. Because the next scene after that is like after the study interrogation where she tells them everything is the tithe.
Oh my god.
And that's the first one that they're having after the 50 years.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to throw something against the wall. Particularly Tamlin. Actually, I was ready to cut off his head. Off with his head, actually. Because you suck at being a king. Like, objectively so. Like, he actually sucks at being a king. I was like, oh, you
didn't want to do it. It's not his first occupational choice.
Not only, sorry, I keep bringing this up, but it's just to show you that he was weak. Like, in the fact that in, like, book 1, like, Rhys was like, oh, I don't think that, like, the torture of his people under a mountain is enough to get Tamlin angry enough to kill him right then. Like, not only that, but it's also the fact that he gets mad when his own people can't pay tithe to sponsor his luxury living. It's his luxury living. It's not. He's like, in exchange, he protects them.
He's doing a really good job.
You're doing a great job, sweetie. To pay for his luxury living, because it's not even like he's not even offering the house or anything to his subjects. It's literally just to pay for my jewels. To pay for the jewels that Feyre wears.
Yeah. Even like Feyre says it. She wears a new set every
day.
day.
She's never worn the same one twice.
But that's insane.
And so it's how my father did it. Your father sucked ass. Like, I'm so sorry. Your father sucked ass. And you know it. And you're using him as an example?
And it's also crazy because in the last book, he specifically used his father to be like, yeah, I want to be different. I want to be better.
And now he's falling into the same trap.
And like, why? It's so dumb. And then she's just being a better ruler. She's like, here, use my necklace and my earrings and buy yourself some actual food.
I love that scene. That's one of the ones that like I forgot was there, but I remember, like, after I read it, I remembered it, and I remembered that I really liked it because that's one of the times that she stands up to Tamlin and she goes, I know what it's like to be starving. I don't wish that on anyone ever. And then even though everyone tells her afterwards, they go, this will not sustain them for a week. What you did is not particularly useful. You just got them out of the tithe. She does not regret it. And she does not let them guilt trip her. She is like, as long as they are fed for that week, it is fine. And I love that about her.
It's one more week for them to find a solution.
And like, finally, like, do you remember when we were in this election and we were like, oh, what's her name? America had like this one moment where she was like actually like talking with like people, and I was like, oh, this is a good moment to show that she would be a good queen. Right here. But not with this king, because he sucks. But like, can you imagine like,
High Lord.
Yeah.
They're not kings.
Sorry, High Lord. He's a sucky one anyway. But either way, just to go from like think about it. Like, she does not know these people. She was not raised here. She almost died for them, and then she comes back traumatized. Can't see the color red. Can't paint, which is her whole thing. Her whole outlet and thing in the first place. She's locked in this deal with this immortal that like no one trusts for a long time, and then she's like, also, my fiance kind of sucks right now, but don't worry, guys.
You just gotta get to know him.
You gotta get to know him. Like, he's different with me, but also
Tamlin, this isn't you.
This
isn't me. Look at me. Look at me.
And then finally,
you're better than that.
But you know what? At least like she like does something. She's like, okay, you know what? My fiance kind of makes shitty decisions right now, but I don't want you to think. I don't want you to suffer. So here is something. Here's something that I can give you. Although it's more like her giving it back, considering they're funding it. But
yeah,
still, I appreciate it. Thank you. Also, why the fuck did he give her a new paint set?
I don't know. The dinner fight is next, then the paint set.
Okay,
The dinner fight where she jumps into Lucian's mind. I don't remember exactly what it said because I left it from my memory, but
He didn't really say anything. She just felt all of his emotions, like sad, rage.
got it. I don't know if she had like
guilt.
I thought for whatever reason she had like a little bit of a vision, but I don't know why. It's been a minute since I read it, but Timlin sitting at the I'm only mad at him because I'm mad about Lucian. You know, my man's and Feyre, but like, and my man's he's sitting at the table and him and Feyre get into this argument. And, like again, Lucian tries to stand up for her, and he goes, "Shut the fuck up." And my boy like wilts like a fucking flower, like a fucking dead rose.
The rage I felt. I was like, "Why the fuck?"
My Pookie Bear. Oh my goodness.
Especially because in the first book, Lucian had so much like bite to him.
Yeah.
And like little like sass, and now it's like kind of all evaporated after Under the Mountain.
And it's like it makes sense because of like the torture, and then he's trying so incredibly hard to listen to Tamlin, so because he believes that that's how they get back to normal. Like he is trying so incredibly hard to just take the shit and like
be like, we'll
lead them back to be strong. Like we'll get better. This is just time. And he's just taking all of this bullshit from this dude.
Like, but also, he's doing that and trying to still be a good friend to Feyre, so he's sticking up for her when he can, and just
taking it.
And he's just kind of taking it, and it's so sad and pathetic. It's looking pathetic, like a little sad and pathetic.
It's like a sad puppy.
Where you're kind of like, this feels like you're kicking somebody who's already down.
Yeah.
Like, he's like genuinely trying to be by your side.
Sorry, that was just crazy wording you used. But continue.
That's the saying.
No, I know.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's the saying. I said it right. I was like, that's messed up. He's just like trying his best to make sure that you feel supported. And then he's trying to also make sure that your girlfriend feels supported. The fact that like Lucian was like coaching Tamlin in the first book, like, okay, this is what you gotta do. This is how you have to charm her. This is how you have to do this. And then to go from that to Tamlin being like, shut the fuck up.
And also, like, Feyre says it herself that, like, they don't know how to, like, her and Tamlin don't know how to communicate in any way other than using their bodies.
For real.
And that's so sad.
Incredibly
she has all these emotions, and every time she tries to express them, he just shuts her down again and again and again.
Like in the next scene, the study, where she comes down, she clips and clops downstairs, and she goes, "Hey, Tamlin," because he's in the study, and he's like, all that paperwork, and she's like, "I'm sorry."
I'm so mad.
And he's like, "I'm sorry." And she's like, "You were right." And he goes, "No, you were right."
Why is she apologizing?
I don't know.
And why does she initiate
She just wants to keep the peace.
Yeah.
Why does she?
It's the neighbors.
Why does she initiate it? Every time.
I think she's still like,
as in, like, she goes to him. Like he apologizes first usually, but like she like.
I think she's like,
and bro keeps apologizing.
She's just down so bad right now. Like she's like so like, what's the word? Rock bottom. That she's like, I cannot make this any worse. I just have to like apologize. Like I have to like figure this out. When she goes up to him and then he fucking gives her the paints.
I was so angry, like actually angry. I was like, dude, this just. Oh,
it's like you haven't noticed that she hasn't painted in months.
Specifically since you got back from Under the Mountain.
And it's like, at first, yes, I understand giving her the things that she loves, like trying to get her back into it. But at this point, she can't go in her painting room. She can't see certain colors. And every time he gives her something, she's not taking it well. So stop. Give her something else.
And it just feels like empty. Like,
he knows one thing about her.
Like, I know one thing about you. You like to paint and you like it when we have sex. And those are the two things he just keeps doing over and over and over again.
And the hunts. And she has said to him, I don't like hunting. And yet she's on all these hunts with the other people, the royals and stuff.
Like, it makes no sense whatsoever.
And she's like, I don't draw a single fucking arrow. And they keep sending her on them.
And then
clapping around.
Her finally expressing how she like really feels and saying that she feels like she's drowning. She can't handle the pressure that he's putting on her to be perfect, essentially, be normal. And for him to protect her and all like the guards and all that. And bro explodes. He
literally goes nuclear.
Actually,
like doesn't say a word and just like cannot handle it and like nearly like
kills her.
Nearly kills her.
He would have killed her if she was still a human. She would have died.
literally a form of emotional abuse. I know
I
those
think that's
terms are
physical.
inflated.
Well, yeah. And then my head hit the floor.
But like the explosive, he got mad. But what? Like she was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I don't like this. I'm expressing to you. This is a boundary I'm drawing. And then he goes, oh, and then he gets mad. Like, if she hadn't also learned how to use her powers because Reese had been teaching her, dead.
I think also it was also just like, what's the word?
Instinct.
Yeah, instinct as well. But I'm just like, and then his ass apology where he's like, Fable, let me in. Let me in, please.
And she doesn't even say anything. She just hugs him.
Literally the entire time.
That's it.
For whatever reason, I thought Lucian came back in that scene and was like, yo, the fuck?
Where was Lucian during that? Did he not hear the explosion?
Apparently not.
Also, but I do think the not talking was done really well.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I was picturing it like a movie, this would feel like the scene where you kind of like,
everything's ringing.
Where everything's ringing, and then you kind of zoom in on her face, and she's shocked, and she's shaking, and she's still shaking, and she's holding him because she feels like this is like
concrete.
Step 1, step 2, step 3 is step 1, he explodes. Step 2, he apologizes. Step 3, comfort. Step 4, the fallout when you're alone.
Yeah.
So like she's like, I like the fact that she wasn't saying anything when she hugged him because I was like, oh, this feels like she's like coming to the end where she's like, oh, this is not.
Yeah, and also Rhysand being able to like feel the outburst, like where he was. Did I read a chapter ahead? I might have gone a chapter ahead on 11.
Probably, yeah.
My bad.
That's okay. Well, he showed up anyway.
Oh yeah, because then Tamlin's like out for a week. He has that ass apology, and then like the guards are lessened, and then they like spend one day together or something, and they're like kind of making out, and then Rhys just shows up, and he's like, "Put on some fucking clothes."
They were having sex, and she did come outside naked because she was like, "What the fuck?" And then he was like, "Put on some clothes, please. We're going."
And then every time, I don't know why it's not funny. It makes me giggle though. Every time she puts on like clothes or something, he's like, "Have you eaten? Have you eaten today? You look skinny." I don't know why it makes me laugh.
That one line is like, "Did they not have enough food?"
Literally.
Why is she so? I mean, I guess it's to indicate that she's depressed.
Yeah.
But it's so funny
because like I think of this like really like big tall man. He's like, "Have you eaten today?" But he's like, hella sassy. He's like, "Have you eaten today?
Have you eaten?
Have they fed you?"
Girl, do you know what food is?
Like literally, he's just sassy man apocalypse. Him and Zuko just up there.
Tamlin begging him, "I'll give you anything, and I'll give you anything you want." And then Rhys is like, "I actually have everything I want." And I was like,
and Feyre's like, "Girl, what? Like, stop!"
Especially because she's already made it clear to Tamlin. She's like, "I can get you information about like the Night Court and whatever." And also, he's not hurting me. She's made it very clear that he doesn't touch her. She kind of just roams around, and still Tamlin's like, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened." Ah!
And he's like not even looking for like an actual way out of it, like a way to break the bargain, maybe like a magic way. Talking to the Surreal, I don't know. And he's just like,
he just asked,
"Please,
Rhys, please, could you please free my girlfriend?" And Rhys is like, "No." Every single time I pick up your girlfriend, she's A, underfed, B, depressed, and C, like super like ready to end things with you. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He's like, "I'm doing her a favor." So
she's like, "The week she gets with me is the most she's gonna get out of life. Like, please."
Literally. He's just so sassy. And that's the end of it, because he takes her away, and she puts back on her clothes that she like brought in. Like Alice wanted to burn them, but she's like, "Nah." And Tamlin's like, "I'll get you out of this," and she's like, "Girl, shut up." She's like, "Girl, bye. You won't."
Whatever.
She was so.
She said empty words.
And yeah, it's like empty threats. Like every time that Tamlin's like, "I'll give you what you want. Like, don't take her."
She's like, "I know you can't do that."
Yeah, like every single time in her head, she goes, "That's an empty threat."
She's like, "No, you can't."
Like literally, what are you going to do?
If he hasn't accepted it by now, I don't understand why he keeps asking, because it feels like he only cares when Rhysand shows up. So it feels like possessive more than it feels like, please, this is the worst thing that's ever happened in my entire life. Mostly because he also doesn't want to talk about her experience while she's at the Night Court, so it just feels extremely empty the entire time.
Come here. She don't care. Well, that's the end of these chapters. So next, bitch, I swear to God. Before the cat knocks over the camera, next time we will be doing 11 through 15. Love you, Pookies. Follow us on our socials. Bye.
Bye.
For those watching on the podcast, she keeps stepping on the